You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done. Hello all, and welcome to Biz-Souls. Are you done moving your chair?
I'm done moving my chair, sorry.
I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler. We get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen. And today we are making it happen. We're getting ready for another podcast guest in about 40 minutes.
Less. So we decided to come on and do a quickie because who doesn't like a good quickie?
Exactly. And we were going to do this live, except the setup with OBS is all, it was working, now it's not working.
And here comes Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
Anyway.
We're talking about careers.
You know, we've been talking a lot about what's been on the news and about no one is retiring. You know, there's no retirement age anymore. And I happen to think that's a good thing. You know, it's 65 is not old anymore.
Well, my dad retired at 72, and 5 years later he was dead. And
the only reason my dad retired was because he had a stroke at 90. And he didn't work on people's teeth per se. He worked on dentures and things like that. And he still had a really steady hand. I mean, it was part-time and it kept his mind active.
Right. And, you know, we're looking at careers differently. I mean, I remember my dad telling me when I was being a speaker and a trainer and doing those things.
Find a real job? That's what my parents told me.
You do what? Get a real job.
Yeah.
And actually, that was a job I loved. I was thinking about being a veterinarian, and I worked for vet hospitals for 3 years. UCI was absolutely useless in terms of counseling or a school. They were not. As a matter of fact, a counselor told me, "Oh, you don't want to be a doctor. You want to be a vet. No, you came to the wrong school. You should be up at Davis or something." You know, it was interesting as a university. Anyway, I worked for the
veterinarian.
The veterinarian. I did a couple of them, and one of them was paying me and to clean the cages and stuff. And he was the most business-oriented guy. And he said, "Look, you don't have to get a vet license to be a vet. Just buy the vet hospitals, because there are all these people that had
first get $1 million, then." Steve Martin reference, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And then I didn't know what to do, and so I switched over to business. I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I started with Apple Computer, which was a real job as far as my dad was concerned. And then that lasted, 3 years, 4 years? And then I had to move on. And my dad was like, "You're going to do what?" And I was like, "Consulting." And then it's like everybody would say, "You're consulting, so you're looking for a new job." And I really like the idea of consulting. I just had a limited range I could consult in at that time. It was specific to retailer and
2
pots.
inches instead of
now
1
it's a
inch.
little
It's a little bigger than
let's not get personal.
I took a similar road. I was working in media and advertising for a little bit longer than you did. And at the do you want me to move your coffee?
No, I want you to hand me a coaster so we don't, because the table will make
commercial
a lot of noise.
break. Okay,
Commercial
we're
break.
back
Okay.
now. And I was in the industry for a while, worked my way up, and for reasons that were ridiculous, and I was like, I don't want to stay in this industry anymore. I left and I went into fitness, nutrition, and then I stayed into that, and then I morphed into consulting using play and creativity and all that through that. So one thing did lead to another, and the fact is I've been on my own. I haven't worked for someone else getting a steady paycheck like that for forever, for probably 30 years.
Yeah.
And I don't, and until the day she died at the beginning of the pandemic, my mother was still, "So when are you going to get a real job?" Because in that generation was, A, a lot of women didn't work.
Right.
And B, they worked to get a paycheck.
Right.
Whereas, weekly and knew what they were doing as opposed to prospects. Can I say that again? Prospecting all the time.
Money was it's always a motivator in terms of pay. For
Yeah.
the thing, I like the characteristics of the job. So I was in sales for a long time.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons for that is you get a lot of freedom when you're good. And you get to do what you want. And basically, if you're really good, you get to tell them what you're going to be doing.
And how much they're going to be spending.
So, you still had to go into work, though, pre-pandemic.
Sure.
You still had to go into to work sometimes. And I did a lot of my sales work on the phone. So,
Well, we all did when we were, that's what salespeople did. There was a lot of phone work.
right. And I enjoyed it because you were talking with people, and it was the kind of relationships I liked, which were, kind of arm's length, they weren't these deep.
Relationships are arm's length.
Well, no, that's why I'm saying I liked them, because they really are. I had these barriers around me, from childhood or whatever. Anyway,
That's above my pay grade.
so well, the thing is you find a job that fits your nuances.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think people say do your passion. I think you have to, it's nice if you like what you do on your off time for that work balance. I think we've talked about this before. Right. You should find something you love to do to keep your emotions high or whatever. You don't have to oh my God, I have such a passion for what I do, which we both kind of do, and we were lucky. And I brought up my friend who's the accountant who designs jewelry in her off time because that's her passion, and
right.
It allows her, and she likes numbers too, but it's not like, my God, I love numbers.
Yeah, and I also like another part of the facet of the job is learning. I constantly love learning and doing new things and trying to master new things. Mm-hmm. And with the job, if you're training, first it was just sales training class, and somebody said do a customer service class. So then you do a bunch of research on, what's working on customer service. You bring your knowledge and your experience with you. You still know that, and then it just goes on and on and on. It's constantly learning.
Well, yes, and you and I are both voracious readers, and I like fiction a lot. So I have a library card, which I love, and when I want to read something for work to increase my knowledge, I will buy it. And these are all the books that you have bought, and there's more. And so I've gotten some good suggestions from you, and we have both gotten suggestions of other books from the books we have read.
Right. And then you read a lot of different books, especially with the fiction, whereas I have a tendency, these are core books as far as I'm concerned, and foundational books. And I go back through them again and again. So 4 or 5 times. Right. It's like watching a movie over again, because you have a different set of experiences and a different set of knowledge every time you read it. So you pick up something different for them.
Yeah.
And books don't stay on the shelf if they're not good. They get trashed and thrown around and replaced.
Or he tries to give them to me.
My magic number for books is 300 books. So that's the limit. Can't have more, can't have less. So.
Okay. Because that's what fits on the shelf.
Pretty much what fits on this shelf. There is another shelf back there with some other books that are reference books. So anyway.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing. It's like, my dad as a dentist kept having to go back to keep certifications up and things like that. And I think a lot of careers and industries, even accountants, when my accountant was doing taxes, they keep changing the laws. So she has to keep going back to learn new things. And I think it's important because you want to be able to stay relevant.
Absolutely.
And that can be scary when you're irrelevant.
Well, and one of the other things about my career choice and yours is it's not too hard on the body. So there's travel, and some people don't travel well, and I have it. Travel is fairly easy for me. I can sleep standing up if I need to.
Not me.
And there are other jobs, though, trade jobs, pipe fitters, iron workers, those are physical jobs. Right. And
plumbers, carpenters,
roofers, any of those. And those kind of jobs do take a toll on your body. Mm-hmm. You're active. One of the things they could do is eat better during breaks instead of just carving up and things like that. It'd help. Except I think with AI and with robotics coming along, that somebody that's skilled at that job will be able to do it much longer. And there are people that absolutely love their job. And I think that's where we're going to. that people are looking for the jobs they absolutely love. We had Nina Yaram, and she does dating now, and she went through law school and got her
Right.
law degree, and she just said, I just didn't like it. Now that knowledge, that legal knowledge, is going to be beneficial to her.
Sure. Yeah, and oh, my voice just cracked. I'm going through puberty, so it's
Rona's a little slow on some.
that's why I teach play, because I'm a little immature. Anyway, there's a lot of our guests love what they do, and at the same time, many of them have had more than one career. Sometimes it's like you try a bunch of ice cream flavors before you find the ones that you like, or like me, I like most of them, and you find something, it's like, hey, I can do this for the rest of my life because it's not exactly the same. And that's my personality. There are people who are happy with the repetition. It makes them happy having that control and knowing what it is. My personality, and I think yours as well, is a little more adventurous. We like what we do, and it's different because of the different industries and the different people we work with.
Right. And I think the one thing that we didn't do is I was at a home base that I worked out of. And I think it's becoming more popular that people are moving around. So there are like, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank.
Remote workers?
Yeah, remote workers.
Oh, you mean
so
like Kelly?
Yeah.
We had her on a little while ago, and she's a nomad because she can work wherever, and she's a journalist, and she dog sits and cat sits, and watch the podcast. You'll
hear
it or listen to it.
People have built up vans, and motorhomes have gotten somewhat sensible, and the smaller ones.
Well, and we
not
had
the huge trucks.
I can't remember her name, who came on designing motorhomes.
Right. Yes. Oh, that's horrible.
We've had over 100. Almost 100 people. So sorry. Anyway, yeah, she redesigns, redoes upscale motorhomes so that people can travel in style.
And trailers.
And I also want to bring up the point that they say that a college education is not necessary anymore, or it's less necessary than it was. First of all, it's getting stupidly expensive, and trades are starting to become more popular because there are less people in them. We need skilled tradespeople, and you have to be smart to be a good skilled tradesperson.
Right.
And
that takes a lot of practice.
It does.
Watching them go through their welding certs and being able to make those welds, both in the ironworkers and even in the pipe trades, really a lot of very fine technical skills, where the difference between a great and a good weld is miles apart.
You drinking vodka in the morning?
No, I'm not drinking vodka in the morning. It just went down wrong.
It's coffee. It's just coffee. And I think there was a stigma to it at one time, and there is much less of one now. I think there is dignity and knowledge and skill needed in a myriad of jobs.
Well, yeah, and I think universities and society, sold that. Now, unfortunately, still, if you get a university degree, you have a tendency to make more money, just as if you get a master's, you have a tendency to make more money for years, and then a PhD, you make more money on those. So, it depends on where you want to go, and is your number one motivator.
And people hate school. It's not for everybody.
Well, being locked down, sometimes it's too slow. And now with YouTube, you can be an expert at something. If somebody really likes math, somebody likes science, they can go eons, light years ahead of their classmates if that's what they completely love. Yeah. And so maybe changing the structure of education would work too. If I was a teacher and somebody was a real genius and had worked in science or had really investigated, I'd let them teach, and then that might inspire other people. So there are a lot of changes that are going to be going on in society. I think they're really good. I definitely like the fact that I was reading in the Wall Street Journal that our group they're not looking at retirement. I thought I was the only one saying, I have no plans to retire. I want to work. And so that's kind of what we're talking about.
Because we're living into our 90s and over. And so, 30, 40 years, I can't not do anything for 40 years. So,
Well, you've done it for the last 6 months.
I tried. I make him feed me when I come down to the studio. Anyway, so careers are definitely changing, and I think we need to be more open-minded about what's possible. I think AI is going to change the jobs that are available. I don't think they're going to be, just taking away jobs. I just think what's necessary is going to be different.
Right.
And sometimes different is good. We just don't know. I think we are too quick to judge because of fear.
Right. And I'm hard on Hollywood. And yet I think Hollywood has helped influence everyone in a positive way, because you see these stars and they talk about reinventing themselves, or musicians who reinvent themselves over and over again. And that process of reinventing yourself and keeping a core foundation of what you're good at and then doing something completely different, I think is great.
Yeah.
And, I think, Taylor, my gal, I think she's gonna. I think look. She's doing this genre of songs, and it's really appealing right now. I foresee her at some point deciding, okay, I'm going to start singing a different tune to be.
But I'm bummed.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, maybe I should be drinking in the morning.
That's right.
At least we had this in. Anyway, so let's put a wrap on this. Have you got any tips for this one?
I mean, I don't be afraid to try things and see if they work. If you can make some money at a career in or a job that you haven't done, you want to dip your toe in, give it a shot. You don't know where that leads, or who you might meet there that might bring you into something else. And if it doesn't work, there is no harm in trying something else.
Absolutely. It's a great tip.
Yeah. First of all, don't be afraid of what other people say, because you're not living your life for other people. And, find something that you like to do, even if it's not your passion. Just make sure you have something that you love to do on the side.
Yeah, and my tip is actually for parents. My dad, because he was work-oriented, you had to get a summer job. I mean, I had a job. I was delivering papers at 9 or something, because if I wanted extra money, I'd have to do that. And then it was working and finding little odd jobs at, games or something, or selling something for somebody. My kids did that. And then in high school, it was working at a grocery store, and then it was working at a restaurant, and then it was working at a factory for a little bit, and then it was helping out with somebody working on a ranch. And that gives you a ton of experiences. You get to find out the things that you want. And parents, let your kids go to work. I mean, we've got labor laws to protect kids, except now it's a different world, and you should find ways for your kids to work. I don't think it's too early for kids to work. They should clean up.
A lemonade stand or cutting. Well, I mean, I had friends from junior high and high school who used to cut lawns.
I cut lawns.
Yeah.
I
went to
shoveled
camp.
snow.
Full disclosure, I went to camp, although I was a counselor at camp. I got paid for that. So
they're good experiences, and then you learn business transactions. Somebody who's getting real nitpicky and didn't like the way I shoveled the snow and had to do it, and then the neighbor kid, Bruce, he got, his parents had money. So my dad had no interest in buying a snowblower. His parents bought him a snowblower. So I'd go and I'd work for hours to do it.
Good exercise.
Charge the same amount. He'd go out with the snowblower and be done in 2 seconds. He'd do 5 or 6 at the same time. So, anyway, machines do help.
So, yeah. And I think it depends on socioeconomic background too, what's possible and what, and to your point, yes, I think kids need that responsibility too. It's not just getting an allowance for breathing.
Right.
So, all right.
Right. And to get to the ranch, I had to go out of my neighborhood and go the other side of town, because that's where
did they have
the ranches.
They
had a ranch. They had a horse ranch. They were raised
in
theoretically. Newport? No, this is in Boston area.
Oh,
It's back there.
Yeah.
And yes, in Newport, they've got areas where their horses are kept, just like in Huntington, we have a small area where horses are kept.
True.
So you can go get involved in that.
Okay.
You can volunteer for things. You don't have to get money. Volunteer to clean up the beach. There you go.
Yeah, that'd be good. Anyway.
All right.
All right. That is what we have. We'd love to know your opinion on having careers, spanning careers, young, working, etc. And while you're at it, check that box, subscribe, hit the like button, all those nifty things. And we will see you next time. This has been Biz-Souls. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
See you later.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.